river. Who shall tell them say the longest river? But that shall the stick where you use cross the river. You might need each other. And I'm a freedom, 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 freedom fighter, freedom fighter. I'm an African freedom, 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 freedom fighter. Jamaica, Brazil, America, freedom. All the people who believe in freedom, I want to see everybody, come on. Rotterdam, Sunsplash. It don't matter if you're from the Bosch country, if you're from Spain, Jamaica, Africa, Europe. Tell them, sir, I said, freedom, 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 freedom fighter, freedom fighter. Costa Rica, freedom, freedom, freedom fighter. So tell that to Babylon, who's already done now. Back over, heaven is taking over, taking over. Back over, heaven is taking over. Freedom!
Welcome to another edition of Voice of the Diaspora. Special guest who is no stranger to you is in studio with me today. CGID president and political activist, US-based Guyanese politician, to talk about the persecution of Melly Mel, political activist, women's rights activist, Melly Mel, and our family by the Guyana Police Force and the government of Guyana. We will also be talking about Gecom and if Gecom will be prepared in 2025 to conduct free and fair elections. But before we go into the main program, we have some breaking news. An African Guyanese young man, Joel Dodson of Joel Dodson of Tushen scheme, is facing persecution by his neighbors who are aligned to the PPP. The EPA and loads of other relevant organizations are visiting his home, trying to shut his business down. And the neighbors, they are giving that young African Guyanese man a fight. He had to close down his fish shop. He opened a wash bay, and they want to close it down. He has 3 children. He's a father. It seems as though African Guyanese men and African Guyanese in general cannot live and survive in Guyana without the interference of the PPP regime. And so I'll take you to this brief clip before we bring in the man of the moment, CGID President Rickford Burke, who is one of our foremost political activists. Welcome again, viewers, to Voice of the Diaspora, and share this live.
Like road, watch. From the road, watch. You see the distance? This car could park. This car could park not under the shed. It could park and it end up on the road. Yeah, I see what's showing you. Yes. It ended up on the road. Now I got a call from Mr. Williams. He was here Saturday measuring up my shed. And how far it come out and all these things, threatening to break down my shed. Yeah, threatening to break down my shed. How I'm not supposed to. This is a residential area and I'm not supposed to operate in no business. I understand that. I'm fully much aware of that. Right? But this is a small business. This is not a multi-million-dollar business. This is not a Chinese supermarket. Here, this is a small business. It's carry washing. Right? It's carry washing. We gotta survive. What we gonna do? We can't thief. Some of we ain't got the skin for take legs for thief. You understand? Some of we gotta work hard for survive. And I invest my money to survive. In my country, I'm a Guyanese citizen, born and raised. I never left this country yet. I don't even have a passport for go nowhere because this is me home. You understand? And if I can't live here and I can't hustle here, where else I could live? Where else I could go and work? You understand? What I supposed to do? I want to show you this here. They tell me that is not something racial, but I live in it and I dealing with it all the time, my friend. I dealing with it all the time. Being a racialism in blood. As a Guyanese, it's one people, one nation, one destiny. There's the matter this country. You understand? Watch, you see this Krishna house here? Watch, there's the next Krishna house. And why you look good? There's the next Krishna house. Watch, you see all them tire without there? You see all them tire without there? Nobody can stop nowhere there. And like I showed you before, you understand? You see all these cement bag with the here, so, and all these blocks and all these things. Nobody can stop there. Me ain't got a problem. Me ain't got to stop there. I do me thing. I'm trying to do my business, trying to stay in my car now. Watch, I take this. I put this, I know it's a long video, yeah, bear with me. Watch. I put this plyboard here, so. This plyboard here, so. For black car, every time the customer come, she cussing them up. She cussing up the customer them. You understand? So I black it. Watch. She video in my yard. Watch. You see the zinc here? I put the zinc here for black there because she video in my yard all the time. I can't live in peace. Everywhere I go, this girl, apparently she walking, can't she? She working at legal affairs. And apparently when people are powerful in this country, they could victimize and they could prosecute whoever they feel like. Because the enforcement officer ain't got to know what they said. If it was an exercise and the campaigning and they want to regularize everything in the scheme, I would understand. I have no problem with that. You understand? But you cannot come to me and pick me out to the group. You understand? Pick me out to the group for try to break my business and try to demolish my business. Mr. Williams, whoever is Mr. Williams calling me from enforcement, I just come off of the phone with him. You understand? He was here Saturday. I wasn't at home measuring up my place. You understand? So I am asking and I'm seeking because I want to know what happened, man. We got no help in this country. What we gonna do? What I supposed to do? Yeah, tell me what I supposed to do. I am frustrated. I living through this for years. I got videos for sure that these people running, coming over in my yard, coming over here for beat me. You understand? For fight with me. These people over there. I have video for show it. You understand? It's 2 Krishna house. Watch. This one, what they signed up there. What the next signed up here. And this is why I got to deal with all the time. And people trying to tell me, oh, it's not racial. I'm one the only black man that got business on this main road. And is the only one being victimized. All the time, no matter how much I try to stay in my car now. I am the only one being victimized all the time. True to this young lady that lives over there. All the time. And I have the letters to prove from the different agencies that's come at my place. Now Mr. Williams is threatening to close down my business. So I tell you, I said, Mr. Williams, the NDC give me some time to remove this shed from here. And I said, I'm going to break this and I'm going to put it in my yard because this is how I survive. You understand? This is how I survive. Right? I'm going to put it in my yard. You know, he trying to tell me, he said, I still can't put it in the yard because they're going to close it down because it's a residential property and I can't do commercial business on it. This is not a multi-million dollar business. All these people in here so would get car wash, it and change to commercial, is residential. You understand? Everybody doing the business. Me thieving from nobody. Me thieving from not a soul. You understand? I need some help from whoever aware about this and whoever could do something about this. This is not fair. This is not fair. It is not fair at all. And I'm extremely frustrated because every time you try, you got another set. Oh, wait, look, the bus come. Apparently, this is the bus that come here. Look, the vehicle.
President of the Caribbean Guyana Institute, Rickford Burke, joins me now. He is one of Guyana's foremost political activists, one of our most ardent fighters. We know that the PPP is trying to jail him. We know that the PPP is trying to no avail to persecute him. He stands strong. He stands resilient. And he remains one of the foremost fighters in the struggle for democracy in Guyana. The PPP government will not crush him. Rickford Burke, welcome to Voice of the Diaspora.
Hi, Norman. Good evening. Thank you for having me. Good evening to your listeners. I know it's afternoon here in New York, so good afternoon to those of you who joining us from New York.
And I want
How
to
have
say
you been, sir?
welcome to the people from Guyana. I have been fine. The struggle continues, Rickford. It is always a pleasure to have you on this program.
Am I
You
centered correctly?
you are centered correctly.
Okay.
And so and you will always be centered correctly. The PPP has to go. But look, Rickford, we are going to be talking about the Melly Mel persecution, the persecution of Melly Mel, who is a political and social activist, a women's rights activist, the persecution of Melly Mel and her family. And also, we'll be talking about Gecom and whether it is prepared to, run a free and fair, conduct a free and fair elections, a transparent elections in Guyana in 2025. But we must deal with this issue. Our viewers have watched the tape, and I know that you're fully aware of this. It has been brought to your attention very quickly. Joel Dodson of Tushan scheme, he is facing persecution from his neighbors, who I understand are aligned to the PPP. This is a young black man who has 3 children. He is trying to feed his family. He had to fish up the persecution from the neighbors, who just those PPP aligned neighbors. It was unbearable. He opened a little wash bay, and the persecution continues. Rickford, what is happening in Guyana to African Guyanese men and African Guyanese in general?
Well, thanks for raising this issue. I've actually seen the videos. I've spoken to the young man, and I think he's going to be just fine. What we see happening in Guyana is the imposition of ethnic supremacy at all levels, all across Guyana by PPP members and activists and supporters. In this particular instant, I am not sure that the people who are presenting themselves as government officials are actually government officials, one. And number two, um, I am not sure that they're acting lawfully. And the reason I say that is because Ministry of Housing doesn't have control over sidewalks in a village. Tushin is a village, comes under the NDC in that area, comes under the region. I don't think it has anything to do with the Ministry of Housing. I've called on the 2 ministers in the Ministry of Housing, Colin Crowell and Susan Rodriguez, to say to the public whether or not they have sent this
Jurisdiction.
Mr. Williams person outside of the jurisdiction of the Ministry of Housing to actually break the law. And if not, this person must be arrested for actually impersonating a Ministry of Housing official. So the young man will have legal representation, and I hope that he takes whatever steps that are necessary to protect himself, to secure his property, and to ensure that the harassment stops. Um, you know, it's something that is happening in Guyana where people align with the People's Progressive Party. Government doesn't believe that Afro-Guyanese should benefit from the economic development of Guyana. And so they're taking all steps. Matter of fact, I just saw that he posted a video where his neighbor, an East Indian family from right across the street, came over onto his property to fight him. I'm not sure if you saw that. I hope the
Yes.
police will get involved and de-escalate that situation, because no citizen, regardless of their race or economic status, is superior to any other citizen.
We are aware that the PVP is very blatant in terms of supporting their supporters, and that they have no respect for African Guyanese. And so Joel's situation is one in many, in which if we do not put our feet down, there will be no justice. There will be no justice. We heard his cry. It was clear and it was resounding, Rickford Burke. And it's similar to the cries of thousands of African Guyanese in Guyana. I want to ask you what can be done and must be done in Guyana by those who are tasked with pushing back hegemony coming from the PPP. What must be done by them almost immediately to ensure that Joel gets justice and that he is allowed to feed his family as an African Guyanese?
First of all, he needs political representation and legal representation. That is something that has been absent in this struggle. I've spoken to the member of parliament for the opposition in that area. He has also spoken to Mr. Dobson, and I know that he's planned to visit the family. Second, like I said, I've connected him with an attorney, and hopefully he can begin some sort of legal process to ensure the harassment stops. Outside of that, generally speaking, in this struggle, we need a civil rights organization in Guyana, something like CGID or Civil Rights Union, the ACLU kind of organization, to be an umbrella organization that would represent people's rights. African Guyanese in Guyana are treated as though they have no rights. And so to ensure that people's rights are preserved, people's rights are respected, we need a formal civil rights organization like the Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, that kind of thing. We need to, somehow, I don't think it has dawned on Guyanese what is happening. We live in societies where the rights of minorities are not respected. And so there had to be all sorts of laws that were enacted, organizations that were formed to represent people's rights, whether legally or politically. That's what we need in Guyana. We need in that. I would not be surprised if she goes, his neighbor Gayatri Prasad, who I understand, based on her Facebook page, says she works at the Ministry of Legal Affairs. Maybe she's taking a cue from the minister who doesn't have respect for people's rights.
Anil
The minister in that ministry, Anil
Nanblad.
Nanlab. But we have to make sure that there's a network in the country to protect people who speaks out. I'm not going to be surprised if she goes and gets him arrested, files some sort of cybercrime complaint against him. We have to guard against all these things and be prepared to fight back against it. And that's why I think we need a civil rights organization, powerful, strong civil rights organization that can represent the rights of Afro-Guyanese.
And you
African
said,
Guyanese.
and I have to ask you this question briefly, and wish to have your response briefly. You're calling for a civil rights organization in the face of an organization, a political organization that is dependent on opposition supporters to put them into government. Are you saying that there is a paucity of efforts from the combined opposition or from the opposition itself that we have to find an alternative to fight for the rights of Guyanese people?
Well, in addition to whatever work the opposition is doing, and we know we don't have a strong opposition. One of the reasons we don't have a strong opposition is because it doesn't have resources. And we have a government that crushes its opponents. And so, in addition to whatever work the opposition is doing, I think we need a civil rights organization, whether it's for now, whether it's for when the APNU, AFC, or whatever combination of opposition parties are in power. We need a strong civil rights organization. We recognized that need in 1992 after the government changed and the PPP came into power and they started to discriminate. They started ethnic cleansing. They started to marginalize Afro-Guyanese. And we can learn from societies that have gone through this kind of marginalization and discrimination against minorities. Well, we're not a minority, but we're of a different race than the political party in power, even though they claim that they're a multi-ethnic party, they're not. So because of the prevalence of discrimination, because people cannot speak out, because people are crushed when they speak out, the government is using the police force, which is now a department of the ruling party, um, and the police is acting based on political instructions. The police is the official mercenary of the ruling party, the PPP. We need a civil rights organization with resources that can be funded by international grants, funded by international organizations, that can be affiliated with international organizations like Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, etc., and have their own international influence. We need that kind of organization to protect the people, in addition to the political parties. And I want to say, in addition to my earlier comments about the political parties, we know that the political representatives from the opposition are not as effective as they could be in the representation of the people. And so we have been calling, you have been calling, I've been calling, CGID and others have been calling for them to step it up and confront um, this beast, this juggernaut of the PPP that wants to impose East Indian, PPP East Indian, that is, PPP East Indian ethnic supremacy. And I always like to clarify that they're also harassing East Indians who don't support them.
Support them.
They're also harassing people who don't support them, East Indians, Amerindians. And so we need effective political representation, and we need a civil rights organization that can confront them at every level, in the courts, politically, through civil society, every means of activism.
I am happy that as CGID president, you have made the first move to ensure that Joel gets legal representation and that he will remain in good stead and be able to have some sort of representation to ensure that he's not seen to be left alone. Rickford, you are no stranger to persecution coming from the PPP regime. You are no stranger. And I want to, before we go to talk about Melly Mel, one of our powerful activists based in the US, before we talk about the persecution of her and her family, I want you to tell the Guyanese people where you're at the moment in relation to the persecution coming from the PPP and their attempts to crush you, to jail you, and to even kill you.
Well, they're not going to be successful at either of those objectives which they have set themselves. And like I've said, the next activist that they kill, they must never again after that be allowed to govern Guyana. Um, so, like as has been made public, the FBI is currently investigating a number of complaints that I have filed with the FBI and that members of Congress have referred to the FBI for investigation. That's number one. Number two, the matter is under review as well by New York State prosecutors. I've been in touch with state prosecutors. I've been in touch with the NYPD. As a matter of fact, over the Labor Day weekend, I was in touch with the NYPD. And I want people to know that the NYPD has been ensuring that I'm safe, my home is safe. There have been occasions when the NYPD has been at my home, protecting my home, after they would have received credible threats. Um, and that's something they do with anybody who, especially community leaders who have been threatened. And also, this matter is currently engaging the attention of the Justice Department. I'm not sure that the State Department is taking any active steps. The PUP government seem to have been able to ingratiate themselves with certain people, including Brian Nichols of the State Department, who has been in a very callous way misrepresenting the facts with regard to the PUP government. I guess, he's influenced by lobbyists. And I know that many people across the U.S. government have been expressing concerns about Brian Nichols and the way that he's conducted the affairs of the Western Hemisphere Bureau, in particular with regard to Haiti and Guyana. He's African American, but he seems to have an aversion for what is happening in terms of infringements of rights of people of African descent in the Western Hemisphere. Also, I know for sure that this matter has been discussed at the level of CARICOM and at the level of the United Nations. And I'll leave it at that. But I know that it is a criminal investigation that is being led by the FBI currently here. And we'll wait to see the outcome. As you know, the government of Ghana, through the Attorney General, announced that the FBI has informed them that they're conducting a criminal investigation of the actions of the government. Now, the Attorney General of Guyana, who's a known liar and has a criminal history himself, responded to the FBI with a letter that is entirely mendacious, entirely deceitful, fraudulent, and false. Every single contention the man represented in that letter is false. Nothing, not one aspect of the letter is truthful. And it is shocking to know that an attorney general of a country can fabricate and lie to the FBI, which is a crime in the United States. If you lie to the FBI, you go to jail. It's a felony. The good thing about it is that as these developments occurred, when the government started to commit these transnational repression crimes against me, we kept the FBI informed. We were, several of us from the Guyanese community, continuously met with the FBI, continuously presented evidence to them. We had Guyana police force officers who presented sworn testimony about their personal knowledge about what has been happening in the Guyana police force, their attempts to frame me, their attempts to coerce police officers to do certain things. And the main thing is the Attorney General claimed that some journalist who I've never know, who I don't know and have never met, told the police that I instructed him from New York to go and so allegedly extort someone. Now, police officers who saw him say that then leaked the interview, the videotaped interview they conducted with that individual, and it shows that the person said he doesn't know me, never spoke to me. So, and before the Attorney General wrote the FBI making that false representation, the FBI already had that information. They had all of the information we provided to them. So, right now, the government of the United States knows that the Attorney General of Guyana and the Guyana government have no credibility on these matters. And so the investigation continues.
Well, let me ask you quickly before we move on. Is a trial ongoing in Guyana in relation to the allegations of fraud against you and cyber crimes and so on? Is that ongoing? Has there been any hearing and so on in your absence? Tell the general public what is happening there.
Well, what has happened is that on the instructions of Bar Jagdeo, the Guyana police force purportedly charged me with some sort of crimes. And they're related to this extortion or whatever it is, and cybercrime. Now, what they did in order to get this matter into a court, they had a police officer swore before a magistrate that I traveled to Guyana, commit this crime, and left, I guess. Because on the document it says that I live in Guyana and I committed this crime in Guyana. They actually stated an address that I live in Guyana and an address in Guyana where I allegedly committed a crime. And they did that so the magistrate could sign the summons. But what we did is the summons, again, they went to the magistrate and said, well, we haven't been able to serve Mr. Burke with the summons because we can't find him. And based on what is written on the document, the magistrate apparently told him, well, go and serve the summons, which is to the address in Guyana that they claim that I live at. And then they sent Sarabo to New York, to my home. When he came here, he acquired illegally a firearm
Illegally,
and he
yeah.
got somebody else. And they both came to my house brandishing firearms and in a very threatening posture left this document, which is a summons, purportedly, on my step, which the FBI seized. Um, so the, they're trying basically to have this trial conducted in my absence so the magistrate could issue a warrant. And then they could come to the United States government and say, well, there's a warrant for Rickford Burke's arrest. So what we did is we moved to the High Court to quash the document they left on my step 1, 2, and then we're now moving to federal court in the United States to declare that the act that the government of Guyana perpetrated in this country was unlawful. So we're attacking it on 2 fronts. And in addition to that, the FBI is conducting a criminal
They are
investigation
investigating, yeah.
whether or not this is international terrorism, and 2, whether or not it's transnational repression crimes, and they could be prosecuted under the Transnational Repression Act.
They're very afraid, Rickford, and they're very afraid of your activism. They're very afraid of your work. Of course, they are so blinded by their hate and by their ignorance that they can say that you committed a crime from a particular address when you haven't visited Guyana in decades. The world knows that.
But what it is,
And
but now what I want to say, what it is though, is Barrett Jackdale, this is all driven by Barrett Jackdale with Anil Nandlal. They deliberately want to pick a fight with black elected officials in this country because they were warned by the Attorney General of the United States, sorry, of New York. They were warned by several members of Congress. I continue to meet several members of Congress. I must say I had a very good discussion over the last weekend with at least 12 members of Congress about what is happening in Guyana. And we can expect some action, particularly in Georgia, where we have a group of very ardent Guyanese activists who are very upset with the Biden administration for not taking action in Guyana. And so hopefully we can have a meeting in Georgia with the elected officials there, and we can discuss a strategy for how the Biden administration should be more pragmatic with its foreign policy towards Guyana. Coming back to my issue, they have intelligence officers walking behind me in the United States, currently surveilling my home. They have intelligence officers trying to track down Melly Mel. And I want to say, I've said it before and I make no apologies. In certain states in this country, you can use deadly force to protect yourself. If somebody from the PP government runs up in your home like they did with me on a Sabbath, with guns blazing, you have a right to use force to protect yourself and to protect your property. And I want Guyanese all across the United States to know that. You can use force in Georgia, in Florida, in Texas, some states. You can use deadly force. And anybody rushing up to you with guns, brandishing guns, is a threat to you. As a matter of fact, someone 3 or 4 days ago jumped a turnstile in the train, didn't pay a fare of $3. And when the police officer chased behind him, he threatened the police to kill him. And the police shot at him.
wow.
Unfortunately, the police shot other persons. But I'm just saying that to say, just a threat of killing a police officer resulted in them attempting to use deadly force.
Deadly
What
force,
about
yeah.
if somebody runs up in your home with a gun trying to use deadly force representing Barry Jackdale?
Well, we know, Rickford, that, and quickly, we know that they're not only trying to kill you, arrest you, extradite you, but they are doing that to no avail. So they are now using popular people in New York. They're now using popular people in New York to undermine the activism in terms of empowering those people, giving them monies, taking photos with them, investing extravagantly in bands for them to become some kind of Guyanese figure that Guyanese young people can recognize, and Guyanese people in general in New York and at home can recognize as a popular personality. And so they have traveled to America during the Labor Day, and we suddenly saw persons who couldn't afford to have a band. They now have a band and they are parading down whatever avenue you call it. And recently they are taking pictures, Barjag himself, to make a statement that there is someone in New York now to rival you. We see these machinations and we have to push back at those machinations. I have said to persons who've written to me based on something I've said recently that politics is not necessarily moral. It's not church. It's an ugly game. And when people try to undermine the struggles of African Guyanese, when people try to ignore for their personal aggrandizement what the history is from 20 something years ago, the jailing of Mark Benchop, the killing of Ronald Waddle, the murder of Crum Ewing, so many things that have happened on this regime. And when African Guyanese, young or not so young, can ignore those atrocities, to stand next to our oppressors, we have to become sometimes ghetto with them. And so I have no apologies. Rickford Burke, you are the leading activist in America. Melly Mel is next to you. I saw a beautiful photograph of unity between the two of you. That photograph was posted on my page. I want to begin our conversation as it relates to what transpired 2 days ago when the police, based on, and I'm not saying allegedly, this program doesn't say allegedly, based on instructions from Anil Nandalal, Barjagir, Irfan Ali, and others in the PVP government, based on instructions, because of Melly Mel's activism, the strength of her activism in exposing senior police officers that have resulted in serious investigations, some being sent home, that as a result of her activism, that now our family, our grandmother who is 78 or 87, our mother, our young son, they have to face the trauma of armed police barging into their homes without a warrant, traumatizing them, guns and everything. Rickford, another black family facing something that they don't deserve. Melly Mel, what is your take on what has just transpired?
Well, first, let me go back to the issue of them trying to use influencers in the United States to create a facade about their atrocities, to hide their atrocities, and to project this image of one Guyana. It's just nonsense. It's frivolous. People will see through it. I'm not bothered by it at all. We, we had the protest in front of the truck. We held a banner. The world saw. As a result of that, I did 12 interviews. And we'll continue to do that. Ali is coming into New York again on the 25th. He's going to be on Church Avenue. We'll have a protest. We will do some more innovative things to bring awareness to their racism and justice and their death squad killings, for which we're demanding an investigation. With regard to what Melly Mel has gone through or is going through, listen, it is all Bar Jagdeo. This is his only playbook. Use the police to harass his political opponents. And all they could do is frame people. Melly Mel is in the United States, so they can't. And now, when they tried that with me, the world saw that they tried to frame me and laughed at them. And so, what they want to do now is to frame Melly Mel. And look at the facts. They claim they got intelligence the weekend before they didn't act. They went Monday and they raided her mother's home. They didn't find anything. They hope to plant. This is what
Without a warrant.
senior
They
police
raided
officers,
without a warrant.
well, they claim they have a warrant. It wasn't presented. So you're right, without a warrant. They went into the home with the intent. What more than one police officers confirmed to me, the instructions were to plant drugs in the home and then arrest them. They couldn't do it because they didn't get an opportunity to do it. They were being recorded. People were watching them, every move. Neighbors came out. The family was watching them, walking behind them. They couldn't do it. So what they did, they threw some black bag across the fence in some alleyway and then issued a statement trying to link the home to that black bag. And there's the Ghana Police Force leadership. They're not too bright because they claim they saw this black bag through a concrete fence, and in the black bag was this transparent Ziploc bag with marijuana. And so the world saw that they got caught trying to frame Melly Mel's mom, trying to plant evidence, and there was outrage throughout the country. People took to social media, political organizations condemned it, CGID condemned it, social media activists condemned it, and so they were caught red-handed. What's shocking to me is the international community is silent, the religious leaders in the country are silent, civil society leaders are silent, and the press, well, Starbuck News wrote about it extensively, but the ethnic media that's controlled by East Indian supporters of the PUP, is silent. And I want to say this. We know that they'll try to continue to set up folks and frame you and me and Melly Mel and Mark, etc. That's the only thing they know. They can't confront us politically. They can't engage in a debate with us. So what they do is use the police to attack us, to frame us, to criminalize us. They're taking a playbook from the KKK and from the Jim Crow era, even Donald Trump. I'm only waiting to see if Barjack there soon is going to fake his assassination and say you or somebody else sent somebody to assassinate him, because they're taking a playbook from certain people in the world. But I want to know if these people live with a conscience, and I want to let them know that they're not going to be in power forever. They will not be in power forever, and they could take this however they want. When they leave government, if God gives me life, will ensure that whatever government is in power does the same thing to them. If not, we're going to remove that government from power through votes, of course. We will make sure that everything they're doing, that the new government will do back to them. I don't know where they would live. I don't know where Anil
But
Nanlal,
justifiably so, because it wouldn't be witch hunting. It would be crimes
it would
committed
be
by that government.
prosecuting their crimes.
Their crimes,
Prosecuting
yes.
their
I
crimes.
wanted
Yes.
to clarify that. Rickford, we
Yes.
had a government in power for 4+ years, 5 years. It was rendered, disabled in about 3 years. But we didn't see anything coming out of that government with that urgency to hold PPP criminals accountable. I want to say this for the young people to hear, and I know that you're aware of this. If one man, Barjack Dio, has been able for 20 something years, more than 2 decades, to take an innocent activist like Mark Benshop and jail him for 5 years, manipulated the courts, done all he had to do, and one magistrate, Juliet Older Allen, who stuck to her guns in terms of principle, to say the court must not be influenced by politicians. And she protected Mark. She lost her job. She was the chief magistrate. We're talking about 20+ years ago. And 20+ years ago to now, Barjack Dio has been able, unhindered, to continue his trajectory in his wrongful actions against African Guyanese. Some may argue that after 20 something years ago, we have to admit that the power in the political opposition and in the civil rights opposition in Guyana International and otherwise has not been effective. What are your thoughts?
Well, Norman, we have to remember that Barjack, they formed their squads that kill people.
Yes.
People are intimidated, and there is no justice to date about the killing of Ronald Waddle. Ronald Waddle's son is my brother. He's my friend, dear friend. There's no justice for his father. They bombed the Sam Chapman boat, killed 43 people, committed domestic terrorism. My friend, Dr. Stephen Carroll's mother, was on that boat. She was murdered by the PPP. There's never been any justice. During the
So
60s,
for the next
between
10 years, will
1960,
there be any justice? Not cutting you, because I want to understand. We have looked at Mark Benshaw. It was one of the most profound cases of injustice in Guyana. An opposition went into power and did nothing. Mark Benshaw fought the PPP, like yourself, to remove the PPP. What you're doing today, Mark did in yesteryear. He was jailed for 5 years. Nothing came out of it. Barjagdio is allowed to rule over the oil money today. He's allowed to engage with Sue in corruption. He's untouchable as we see it today. My question to you as a political
he's
activist,
not
we
untouchable.
as we see it, I said he's untouchable as we see it today. Because I'll tell you this, if someone runs amok for 20 something years, take away a country from an opposition that had intended to clean it up, take away a country from an opposition without any personal power of his, could not run for president for a third term. So he was nothing in the political spectrum of the nation. He was a part of he was an executive in his party. He was allowed to actually use his machinations as a party member to remove a sitting government, and
Well,
continues today to be corrupt, to be evil, to be wicked, and still sits there untouched. What does that say about us as an opposition, Rickford?
well, the APNU coalition led by David Granger was weak. President Granger was a weak political leader. He didn't understand how to govern. That's number one. Number two, he didn't understand the power of money and influence. Barjagde was able to use the money given to him by his donors to buy influence in the United States to get rid of the government. When we encouraged President Granger to hire lobbyists, he didn't do it. But Barjagde is not invincible. Barjagde is not untouchable. I want the young people of Guyana to understand that. He is pursuing this path to the extent that we allow him. We have allowed him. That's why they're attacking people like you and I, because we're standing in his pathway
Yes.
to dictatorship, to East Indian supremacy, to creating a one party state. And people like that, when they become desperate, they kill you. They're like quarter dogs. But I want the young people of
Agree.
Guyana to
Agree.
understand that Barjagdeo is no hero. Barjagdeo is no expert political strategist. Barjagdeo is a common criminal and a murderer. He
Corrupt.
formed death squads that kill people. He's like Desi Bautista. He is just like Pinochet. He's like all the other dictators in the world, Saddam Hussein. That's the light in which they should see Barjagdeo. And one day, before he dies, he will have to face justice. I don't care if he's 90. You see, in Alabama, the people who killed those black girls and so many black youth, after 20 years, they were brought to justice. Barjagde will face justice. And that's why I'm saying whenever this government change, even if it's 20 years from now, they will have to face justice, or we will make sure that government can't function until it brings these people in the PPP, Anil Nanlal, Barjagde especially, to justice. Over 1,400 young black men. And I want the young people of Guyana to
Speaker.
understand where
Speaker.
CGID is coming from. You can't allow the PPP to kill over 1,400 young black men, commit a genocide, and get away with it. And then see the person who killed these people as a hero. East Indian supporters of the PPP see Barjagde was a hero for forming death squads to kill these young black men who they saw as creating a resistance to their political dictatorship. They weren't criminals. Just like he could sit every Thursday and brand me and Melly and Mark or whoever it is criminals. Now they're doing the same thing to Paul Slow.
Yes.
They're putting people to say that he raped them, he touched them, he assaulted them. That's Barjagde. Barjagde was the criminal.
Everything black is
Barjagde was
negative
caught.
for him.
Barrett Jagdale was caught on on video, negotiating a $500,000 bribe. Barrett Jagdale formed death squads that killed people. Barrett Jagdale is being investigated internationally for bribes. He has been labeled one of the most corrupt leaders of the world when he was president. Barrett Jagdale is a criminal. He's no hero. He's a criminal. He should be brought to justice, and we must ensure that there's justice whenever possible.
Rickford Burke here on Voice of the Diaspora. We are going to move now to Gecom.
I have a hard stop in about 10 minutes.
But
I have
before
a
we
3 o'clock appointment, so
I know,
in 10 minutes I have to
before
leave.
we go, what would you like to say to Melly Mel on behalf of her family, the persecution they're facing? What would you like to say to her and to the people of Guyana in relation to the persecution? What would you like to say to comfort our powerful women's rights activists? A black woman standing up and bringing down powerful people in the police force. A black woman standing up and exposing powerful people in the government. What would you like to say to her and the general public?
Well, she knows that I have her back. She's a good friend of mine. We are in touch. First of all, I'd like to tell her to keep doing what she's doing. Keep doing what she's doing. Keep exposing wrongdoing in Guyana. Keep exposing corruption, not to be intimidated. Ensure that your family is protected. Of course, family comes first. But keep doing what you're doing. Second, I would say disclose all of these threats to the public. They like to laugh at me when I say, oh, I got a death threat. They're like, who want to kill Rickford Burke? At the same time, they're doing it. They sent a police officer here to try to recruit someone to kill me. They'll do the same thing to her. And she must expose it, get U.S. government officials involved, write letters to the United States government officials, file complaints with NYPD, file complaints with the FBI. Listen, once there's an accumulation of all of these complaints, the United States government will have to act harshly against the government of Guyana, including dragging some of them into this country and prosecuting them. And so I would want to tell her, meet with her members of Congress. And most of the times of recent, we've included Melly Mel in all of our discussions with elected officials. The FBI is in touch with her. NYPD is in touch with her. We're going to make sure that she's protected. And, her family back in Guyana, keep the faith. Ensure that you guys are protected. Ensure that when people come to your home, you videotape, create evidence, let the public know, put everything out in the public so that people see what's going on. And don't lose faith. One day there'll be justice.
Rickford Burke here on Voices Diaspora. Rickford Burke, I know you have to go in 10 minutes. I want us to take a quick break for some water or so on for about 3 minutes. And you can use 5 minutes for us to talk about Gecom. I know you're running short of time, but I don't want you to leave.
I don't need a break. We can go straight into Gecom.
No, I can't, but I have to take a quick break so that we can, ensure that we have cut, the different discourses. And so we'll be talking about Gecom after this break. I know it will be brief coming from you, and but let us take a break so the viewers can have a breather. And when we come back, we talk about Gecom briefly and call it an evening.
Freedom, freedom, freedom fighter, freedom fighter. Now we not home. For if a man a fight, till everyone in this dark world see the light. Every man equal in the most high side. No matter if you picture that purple or white. Come together, unite, upliftment, higher heights. Yelly man, you well over the black price and for us, and I see I give life. Rasta man never see them ever beg, ever want freedom song, that me chant. Anytime we need food, they hurt me plant, but I'm a body pant. I'm a freedom, 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 freedom fighter, freedom fighter. Young small guy.
Rickford Burke here on Voice of the Diaspora. Of course, he's pressing for time, so we will go straight into the discourse about Gecom. You are a freedom fighter like Mark, like Melly Mel, like Paul Slow, and we have to mention him more because so much has been happening to him. And, we have to ensure that we watch each other's back. Paul Slow, true respect to you. Many respect you. Rickford Burke, with all that is happening in Guyana in terms of PVP's oppression, in terms of the persecution of yourself, Melly Mel, the ordinary people like Joel Dodson, and thousands of other Guyanese, including Indians and Amerindians, primarily Africans. With all this happening, the only change that can come to see justice and to see a brighter Guyana is through the electoral process as it is today. Dr. Hines was on this program last night and he said the new world only allows for the removal of government through the democratic process. He said that last night. Dr. David Hines, a professor, a political scientist, and a political activist who is a leader of the WPA. He made that clear. He also said that there is need for an opposition organization. You understand? to come
Well,
together.
tell that to Saddam Hussein and Muammar Gaddafi. But go ahead.
Yeah, but he also said that there needs to be a group that will a group specially set up to pressure Gecom to ensure that it is equipped and ready and rightfully so in the right place to be the rightful organization to ensure that there's free and fair elections, credible elections, and transparent elections. You look at Gecom today. What are your thoughts on Gecom in relation to the 2025 elections?
Well, I don't think Gecom is ready to the. I'm sorry. So I have a group of people waiting for a meeting with me. So I don't think Gecom is ready for elections. I don't think the country should accept Gecom's pretense to be ready for elections unless there's biometrics. We need biometrics. I don't believe the opposition should participate in any election that doesn't have a clean voters list and biometrics. We need new house registration. We need biometrics, and we'll be pressuring the opposition to not accept anything less. I think that for far too long we've allowed the opposition to accept these things from the government. We saw the disaster that happened in the local government elections. The opposition should not have, I understand the rationale that if they did not participate in the elections, they would have controlled areas that the opposition normally would control. But I don't believe the opposition should participate in any election where there's not a new voters list and where there's not biometrics, and let the country plunge into instability. The international community will not allow the PPP government to go into an election alone. That would be like Russia. And Chetty Jagan, when I was a teenager and worked for Desmond Hoy, pressured the PNC to accept certain things. He campaigned all around the world. I remember Bob Torricelli, then United States Senator, leading a group of senators to attack Desmond Hoy to fight for what they call counting a ballot at the place of poll, and some other electoral reforms which Hoyt relented to. So why now we can't get electoral reform? That's going to be beneficial to the country, and that's going to enhance free and fair elections. Now I'm going to have to run now because the meeting is about to start.
Rickford Burke, I want to thank you for being here on Voice of the Diaspora, and I want you to say your closing remarks to the people of Guyana and the Guyanese people in the diaspora. They are watching you, they love you, and what would you like to say to them for hope in the future?
Well, I would like to say that we all have to stand in unity and fight the People's Progressive Party government. It's a racist government. They intend to impose ethnic supremacy in our country, and we must resist it.
If they offer you
Thanks,
a band,
everybody.
if they offer you a band in New York to play and to frolic and to win people over, would you accept it?
I cannot be bought.
Thank you very much, Rickford Burke. It has been
Thanks.
a pleasure having you in this program, and of course, we will have you back soon. I thank you very much for being
Thank
here on
you.
Voice of the Diaspora.
Thanks for
Continue
having
to
me.
struggle. You are a freedom fighter, and you
Thank you.
will continue to be that. CGID President there, Rickford Burke, here on the Voice of the Diaspora, and you would have heard him. This struggle is real. This struggle is real. Whatever we do, people, whatever we do or how we do it, it is for the liberation of the Guyanese people, primarily African Guyanese, many Indians, many Africans. The PPP cabal has no respect for ethnic groups. Bar Jagdio has no respect for many Indians, for many Amerindians, for many Africans. But I want to say to the people of Guyana that I will be reaching out to Leader of the Opposition, Aubrey Norton, AFC Leader Nigel Hughes, and other politicians in Guyana to talk about Gecom. Because here is a situation where our future is uncertain. And I want the young people to understand this. The Gecom is pivotal to the fact that we will not have free and fair elections if changes are not made, and that the opposition has a role to play. Civil society has a role to play. Organizations across Guyana have a role to play in ensuring that democracy is upheld in Guyana, in ensuring the democracy. Every school child, every ordinary person must understand that no matter what passion or fervor we have, if Gecom, the Guyana Elections Commission, is in the pockets of the PPP and is corrupt, we can go to an election where 70% of the people vote the PPP out and the PPP will return to office. This is where we at. This is where we are at. And this is where we have to sound our voices as Guyanese to ensure that democracy reigns, that democracy triumphs. I want to send a special shout out to the freedom fighters in Guyana, for those who have struggled like Mark Bishop, Rickford Burke. We have Melly Mel on the surface now, fighting assiduously and being foremost in this struggle as a woman, a black woman. And once you're black, the PPP will try to trample you. They've killed the Henry boys. They've killed Ronald Waddle. They have killed so many people. You understand? And so we have to understand that when you look in my background, you see the image of Coffee. He never sold out. He never gave up. He fought the revolution and he triumphed so that we could be free. Let us be like Coffee and not take pittances to hug the leaders in Guyana who are killing our people. Thank you so much this evening for being on Voice of the Diaspora. And on Voice of the Diaspora, you have to understand it is the voice of freedom fighters.
Freedom, freedom, freedom fighter, freedom fighter. Now we not locked down. Forever man a fight till everyone in this dark world see the light. Every man equal in the most high side. No matter if you pick to that purple or white, come together, unite, upliftment, higher heights. Tell him Emmanuel over the black Christ and for us, and I say I give life. Rasta man never see them ever beg, never want freedom song, that me chant. Anytime we need food, they hurt me plant, but I'm a body can't. I'm a freedom, 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 freedom fighter, freedom fighter. Thanks Morgan, freedom, 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 freedom fighter, Morgan heritage, freedom fighter. Bandage, we not stop on fire. Healing Paga Selassie, I demand dire. Every morning me rise, me up to say a prayer. Get it, then me perspire. Hail Rastafari, him a the life giver. Who shall tell them say the longest river? But that shed the stick where you use cross the river. You might need each other. And I'm a freedom, 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 freedom fighter, freedom fighter. I'm a African freedom, freedom.
road, watch. From the road, watch. You see the distance? This car could park. This car could park not under the shed. It could park and it end up on the road. Yeah, I see what's showing here. Yes. It ended up on the road. Now I got a call from Mr. Williams. He was here Saturday measuring up my shed. Measuring up my shed and how far it come out and all these things. Threatening to break down my shed. Yeah, threatening to break down my shed. How I'm not supposed to. This is a residential area and I'm not supposed to operate in no business. I understand that. I'm fully much aware of that. Right? But this is a small business. This is not a multi-million dollar business. This is not a Chinese supermarket. Here, this is a small business. It's car washing. Right? It's car washing. We gotta survive. What we gonna do? All we can't thief. Some of we ain't got the skin for take legs for thief. You understand? Some of we gotta work hard for survive. And I invest some money to survive. In my country, I'm a Guyanese citizen, born and raised here. I never left this country yet. I don't even have a passport for go nowhere because this is me home. You understand? And if I can't live here and I can't hustle here, where else I could live? Where else I could go and work? You understand? What I supposed to do? I want to show you this here. They tell me that is not something racial, but I live in it and I dealing with it all the time, my old friend. I dealing with it all the time. Being a racialism in blood. As a Guyanese, it's one people, one nation, one destiny. There's the matter of this country. You understand? Watch, you see this Krishna house here? Watch, there's the next Krishna house. I want you to look good. There's the next Krishna house. Watch, you see all them tire without there? You see all them tire without there? Nobody can stop nowhere there. And like I showed you before. You understand? You see all these cement bag with the here, so, and all these blocks and all these things. Nobody can stop there. Me ain't got a problem. Me ain't got to stop there. I do me thing. I'm trying to do my business. Trying to stay in my car now. Watch. I take this. I put this. I know it's a long video. Yeah, bear with me. Watch. I put this plyboard here, so this plyboard here, so for black car. Every time the customer come, she cussing them up. She cussing up the customer them. You understand? So I black it. Watch. She video in my yard. Watch. You see the zinc here? I put the zinc here for black there because she video in my yard all the time. I can't live in peace. Everywhere I go, this girl, apparently she walking, can't she? She working at legal affairs. And apparently when people are powerful in this country, they could victimize and they could persecute whoever they feel like. Because the enforcement officer ain't got to know how the shed. If it was an exercise and the campaigning and they want to regularize everything in the scheme, I would understand. I have no problem with that. You understand? But you cannot come to me and pick me out to the group. You understand? Pick me out to the group for try to break my business and try to demolish my business. Mr. Williams, whoever is Mr. Williams calling me from enforcement, I just come off of the phone with him. You understand? He was here Saturday. I wasn't at home measuring up my place. You understand? So I am asking and I'm seeking because I want to know what happened, man. We ain't got no help in this country. What we gonna do? What I supposed to do? Yeah, tell me what I supposed to do. I am frustrated. I living through this for years. I got videos for sure that these people running, coming over in my yard, coming over here for beat me. You understand? For fight with me. These people over there. I have video for show it. You understand? It's two Krishna house. Watch. This one, what they signed up there. What the next signed up here. And this is why I got to deal with all the time. And people trying to tell me, oh, it's not racial. I'm one the only black man that got business on this main road. And is the only one being victimized. All the time, no matter how much I try to stay in my car now. I am the only one being victimized all the time. True to this young lady that lives over there. All the time. And I have the letters to prove from the different agencies that's come at my place. Now Mr. Williams is threatening to close down my business. So I tell you, I said, Mr. Williams, the NDC give me some time to remove this shed from here. And I said, I'm going to break this and I'm going to put it in my yard because this is how I survive. You understand? This is how I survive. Right? I'm going to put it in my yard. You know, he turned to tell me, he said, I still can't put it in the yard because they're going to close it down because it's a residential property and I can't do commercial business on it. This is not a multi-million dollar business. All these people in here so would get car wash. It didn't change to commercial. It's residential. You understand? Everybody doing the business. Mean thief from